This is Geeks Unleashed, episode 48. As I'm Jasmine, me and you, we need some names. Like we need,
man, I'm so bad at like cool nicknames.
I'm not a cool nickname person.
Man.
Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. This is episode 48. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jasmine.
Each week we cover the news of the week and then we pick a couple of things to review that caught our fancy in TV, comics, movies and games. This week's reviews are Raya, the Last Dragon on Disney Plus and Stillwater Volume 1 from the Skybound imprint of Image Comics.
And spoiler warning, this is a review show. So if you have not had a chance to watch these, then we suggest you pause this, come back. Unless you just love spoilers, then at the very end, we'll give you a couple of recommendations of our own.
Do you know what? Like, you know how every week we say Mark and Jasmine? I was chatting to Amir from Paperbacks and Soundtracks earlier, and I said I love, like, they introduce it with, like, he's like, I'm Amir, aka the Magic Man, and I said it's such a cool name. Like, and then I was like thinking, yeah, you've got Rockin' Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers. As I'm Jasmine, me and you, we need some names. Like we need,
I'm so bad at like cool nicknames.
I'm not a cool nickname person.
I
was like,
now that's gonna make me think. Like, what could we call ourselves?
Like, yeah. I was like thinking, I'm not going near Marky Mark. That's just not gonna happen. I think we're probably done with this. I think we've established that cool names are not going to happen. But I tell you what, if you're listening, and I know people
give us a suggestion.
Yeah. What can our cool names be? Like, what's the stage name?
Give us a suggestion.
Like, nothing ridiculous, like
Also, I don't really like. I don't like nicknames. So
any nickname I've ever had over the years has been offensive, so I'm clearly not going to. I'm clearly not going to open up with that. It's been like band three piss takers between like piss taking names between mates. I'm clearly not going to open up with the name that I got called at school or anything like that.
Right, you finally get away from it. You're not going back to it.
I'm not going to open that up. Like, this Geeks Unleashed, Mark, aka I'm clearly not going to say it. So anyway, we'll say.
So anyway, we have opened that up for a suggestion. So feel free to leave us a comment, send us a DM, tell us what you think our cool radio DJ name should be.
Yeah, that's my man. We've probably opened ourselves up to a whole whirlwind of abuse now. Anyway, we will see. Yeah, but so friends and fellow listeners, we'll move on to something more serious.
So kicking off our first news story of this week, Hannah John-Kamen is set to star as Red Sonja. Now, I am a big Gail Simone fan. Not necessarily that I've read all of her books, but I just love Gail Simone as a person. And Gail Simone was a writer for Red Sonja for, I want to say a 12-issue run, so about a year. And Gail Simone approves of this casting, and that's all I need to know. When I literally heard the news that they had cast Hannah in the role, first of all, I love Hannah because Killjoys is fantastic. It's silly fun. It is very silly space bounty hunter fun. But as soon as they announced the casting, the first place I went was straight to Gail Simone's Twitter, and I scrolled all the way through her Twitter feed to find what she thought about it. And she said she approves. So if she's happy, I'm happy. So the film is going to be directed by Joey Soloway, who also, as the director, has emphatically come out and said, look, Red Sonja is Hannah. It's always been Hannah. We've had our eye on Hannah for a while, so suck it, basically. The original comic was published by Marvel, and now the comic is under the Dynamite label. And of course, as expected, Red Sonja is most famous for her chainmail bikini, and the fanboy community is quite up in arms at the casting news, mainly because Hannah John-Kamen is not a giant, tall, busty redhead. So it's if nothing else, it has been fun to see them complain and moan and whine about the casting news, but I'm super excited. I would love to see Hannah do more work. I think she is so much better than what we've seen her in, what most people have seen her in, which was Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I'd be excited. Now the original premise was she was her family was attacked and she was too weak to help out. And after they were all murdered, she kind of begged the gods for vengeance, and a god came down and said, all right, I'm going to give you some superpowers and you'll be able to fight. Like, you'll be a really, really great fighter. The caveat here is you can keep these powers as long as you never lie and as long as you don't screw around with dudes. So I thought that was a pretty cool well, technically it's you don't mess around, don't sleep with men who have not bested you fairly in combat. So anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to see Hannah John-Kamen in anything. So bring it on.
I've not because I know you're a massive Killjoys fan, so I've only seen like 1 or 2 episodes of that, so I know that she was obviously the star of that. Mm-hmm. I obviously, like you just said, most people have seen her in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I thought she was great in, but I watched her last year in the miniseries that came out last year on Netflix, The Stranger, where she was sort of the villain of the show. But the first thing I ever saw her on, and I sort of vaguely remember it, was she was in the episode of Misfits on Channel 4 in the UK.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited. But you know what, you were making the comment earlier about Red Sonja and the chainmail thing, and the fanboys going nuts and stuff. I remember the same thing happening when Gal Gadot was cast as Wonder Woman, and people up in arms that she wasn't, of huge sort of proportions like the comic character. But you know what? She's come out and been the most amazing Wonder Woman ever.
And at first, when I first heard the casting, I'm not gonna lie, I was upset because I was like, she's way too scrawny to be Wonder Woman. Of course, I was not interested in her bust size. But like the last thing I had seen her in before they announced this news was Fast and Furious franchise, and she is crazy skinny in that franchise. And so they were like, oh yeah, she's gonna be Wonder Woman. I was like, she is thick thin. What do you mean she's gonna be Wonder Woman? How the hell is she gonna fight anybody? But thankfully she proved me very, very wrong. She is, like you said, a fantastic Wonder Woman. So
she clearly worked out for that, and I imagine that Hannah will equally put in the effort she needs to. But who cares that she's not a busty redhead? So
yeah, I mean, hell, that's why they have wigs. They can put her in a red wig. It's no big deal.
Oh, well, I'm sure they could dye her hair red. Yeah, I don't want them to do CGI shit on the hair, but
Yeah. Well, let's just hope that whoever does the wigs for Red Sonja does a much better job than they did with Kirsten Dunst in Spider-Man, because her red hair was atrocious.
So, Stranger Things season 4 trailer dropped. 1 minute of it, almost felt like watching a horror film. That's like I was like watching it. Like I was like, well, what's going to happen? Is someone going to jump out? I was fairly freaked out. Not a lot happens in this trailer. It's like 1 minute and 10 seconds long. There's a whole bunch of potential kids like 11, and we're in some sort of eerie sort of basement as you're sort of moving across the moving back through the corridor, and you see the door with number 11 on it. You don't see 11 at all. You see her eyes for the last sort of split second. Not too sure exactly what any of this means. Is it flashback city? Is it current? Have they managed to grab 11 again? Have they, have we got new kids on the block? Don't know. Basically.
Do we have new kids on the block?
Yeah. With Marky Mark and the new kids
and the Funky Bunch.
It's all going on. So that was not planned. We did not set that joke up. But anyway, I don't know what's going on, but I was fairly freaked out. I was like, oh man, this is like creepy town.
Yeah, it's very, very eerie.
There's no release date, but me and Jasmine had a conversation before this kick started off. I can't see why Netflix wouldn't have dropped this off, drop this online if it wasn't around the corner. So Netflix have been traditionally known for the combination of planned release dates and then just suddenly dropping it on us as well.
Yeah, like they did with Castlevania and Love, Death, and Robots, the second anthology.
There was that movie as well that they did. Was it the Super Bowl a couple of years ago? They showed a trailer. It's going to annoy me now. I forgot the name of it, but it's those 3 films that they're all connected. Oh, Cloverfield, the Cloverfield one in space.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Cloverfield product.
Yeah, Paradox. Yeah, so they dropped the trailer during the Super Bowl about 2 or 3 years ago, and then they literally said right after the Super Bowl, jump onto Netflix and watch Cloverfield Paradox,
which I did.
Which
so it worked.
Well, I didn't watch it then. I watched it like the next day or whatever, because I'm in the UK and clearly I didn't want to watch it at 4 a.m. But so Netflix do crazy stuff like that. And you say Castlevania, they only got the release date for that like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right, and it's coming out next week.
Yeah,
so moving right along, more casting news. So keeping with the Netflix theme, Netflix has picked up Lady Killer, which is based on the Joel Jones comic from Dark Horse Comics. I love this comic. I am super, super thrilled about this news. Blake Lively is set to star in the lead role, and the film is going to be directed by Oscar winner Diablo Cody. And I'm excited that Netflix is really putting some money and effort behind their original products. Because we always joke, like if you look through the Netflix library, there's not much recognizable stuff, you know what I mean? Like, not stuff from like the big name studios, but Netflix is really trying to kind of start holding their own. And while not too many people would know about this series, which shame on you guys, like Lady Killer is fantastic. So no real details yet, no release dates, no nothing like that. Basically, they've just announced that they have the rights, they have a star, and they have a director. So Lady Killer being adapted for Netflix, starring Blake Lively and going to be directed by Diablo Cody. So I think that's a fantastic combination, actually. Blake has surprised me before with some of the serious roles that she takes. So I'd be super excited. Now, the premise of Lady Killer is she is this suburban housewife in the 1950s, and she is perfect. She has, the perfectly coiffed hair. She wears the big poodle skirts. She cooks her husband dinner. Kids get to where they're supposed to be on time. But her second job is a freelance killer for hire. So a lot of the sequences in Lady Killer revolve around her making sure that dinner is on the table, but like before she goes to bed, she has to run out and murder a couple of guys. She gets blood all over her beautiful clothes, comes home, gets those stains out with those yellow rubber gloves, and keeps on trucking. It's a fantastic series. It's so much fun.
I big fan of Blake. You've heard me joke about Gossip Girl before. I watched all the Gossip Girl. I watched all the Gossip Girl, and I thought Gossip Girl was great. I loved all the Gossip Girl. It's like sad man that I am. But anyway, I thought she was brilliant as Serena van der Woodsen. And then I saw her in The Town, and I thought she was great in that. And then I don't know how many people have seen The Shallows. Have you seen The Shallows?
No, because I'm terrified of sharks.
Oh, you should watch The Shallows. It wouldn't improve your fear of them. But I actually did think they did a good job for pretty much a solo person movie. So I'm never a big fan of like solo person movies, but it pretty much is her throughout the movie, her versus shark. And I thought she did a good job I think it's very difficult to do like a solo person movie. And I thought, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a fantastic movie, but for what it was, a bit like the whole Mortal Kombat thing. I actually said this to you the other day. I was listening to Pop Culture Happy Hour, and they're talking about Mortal Kombat, and they said, look, it's eating pizza. Sometimes you eat bad pizza, but it's still pizza. Like Mortal Kombat, like was the thing they were talking about. And like The Shallows, it's what you're going into. It's a shark movie. It's not Downton Abbey. It's not whatever. It's a shark movie. It's not. I don't know.
It ain't winning no Oscars.
Oh yeah, but she did a good job in it, and I'm quite looking forward to this whole Lady Killer thing. And I know, as you said at the beginning, shame on you. I have not watched it, so I know you were talking. Pick up one issue.
Pick up the first issue of Lady Killer. It's really good.
I'm happy. I'd grab a graphic novel of it and read the whole thing. Like I love J.R. Jones too. So
also, I love Blake Lively and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I know that's pretty girly compared to a lot of other things. It's one of the first things she's ever been in. But that movie was like the movie that me and some of my girlfriends were like obsessed with when it came out. So yeah, and a movie that was really kind of weird, Savages. She was good in that.
Oh, she was in Green Lantern too, but we shouldn't talk about that.
No, we don't talk about that, Mark. That movie didn't happen.
Well, I mean, I guess it was good for her. She met her husband, but it worked out well for her. So, and they got a paycheck too. So.
Yeah, I mean, can't go wrong.
Without Green Lantern, you wouldn't have another film to take the mick out of. So
this is true.
Yeah, so it's right up there with Catwoman.
Catwoman was so terrible.
Do you know what? Like almost again, it's like Bad Pizza. I've actually watched that Catwoman like 3 or 4 times. Like, it's a bad film, but I admit it's a bad film. But sometimes like you sit down, and you're like, I just want to watch that shit. Like, but I want to put something on, but I don't want to think about what I'm watching.
Yeah.
And like, there's a handful of movies like that. And Catwoman's one of those films. So.
Yeah, usually when I'm in that kind of mood, I rewatch stuff that I know I already love.
Oh yeah, rewatching as well.
My go-to for that mood is Ninja Assassin, which stars a former Korean pop idol, Rain.
I've never seen that. Anyway,
oh my god, it's terrible. It's great. I love it.
Let's go. We've got not all night. So we don't want to be dropping one of our 3-hour episodes. So no, we've never done that. I'll joke. Right. Anyway, Marvel went nuts this week. They went truly nuts. They did drop off. They did drop a really nice 3-minute video.
Oh wow!
3-minute video. I couldn't believe it. It was really nice. Honestly, if you didn't have some tears and something at the back of your throat, I don't know what's wrong with you. Stan Lee, that when that voice came in, like I was like, oh, I can't believe it. And like when they showed that montage, and when he's like, that's your brother over there, that's your sister over there, and they showed like Quicksilver and that kind of thing, I was like, oh, that's actually nice. Like it's nice and respectful, and that's actually something me and you were talking about before we started recording. Was Marvel know what the fans love? They know the fans love Stan Lee. They know, for me, like I feel like Marvel and Disney, they respect the legacy. Like, well, I mean, you look at Disney, like they respect Walt Disney's legacy, like, and they've gone and picked up Marvel, which they know Stan Lee and not just him, Jack Kirby and others. They respect the franchise, but they know that Stan Lee is the most well known from for the general public. Not everybody in the general public knows about every writer or creator that's ever been involved in Marvel, but they know Stan Lee. Stan Lee is almost like the Walt of Marvel, and so to have his voice over that 3-minute video while they're showing like the sort of the history of the Marvel cinematic universe, before they then go and drop a load of like bangers on us.
They're all of their films until like 2023, and then several more after that.
Oh, and honestly, and then they end it with a huge tease. Like they keep teasing this. So I'm going to kind of read out a couple of dates here. Some of them you know, some of them you don't know. Some of them you. To be honest, if you like this kind of podcast, you probably already heard half this stuff already. So Loki's going to be out. It's going to be Wednesday. It's going to be Loki Wednesday. I like that, Loki Wednesday. June 11th. June 11th. That's out. Black Widow is going to be out Disney Plus, and it's going to be out in movie theaters too. That's going to be July the 9th. And then we've got Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, or Legend of the Ten Rings. That's going to be out September 3rd, probably Disney Plus and cinemas. I can't remember if it's Disney Plus or not, but probably. The Eternals will be out November 5th. Hopefully by then, all mass social distancing will be gone. Hopefully we can be back to 2019. So I'm looking forward to the Eternals, though. Honestly, really strong cast.
I was shocked after that video. I was like, "Damn, they all look really good." It looks good.
I don't know anything about the Eternals. I'm not gonna lie. I've never read.
I'll tell you what.
Eternals
I love
comic.
Gemma Chan. I love Gemma Chan. I love Angelina Jolie too. I'm not gonna lie, I do.
Oh, there's so many good people in there. Yeah, but Gemma Chan from is it Humans?
Yes, Humans.
Yeah, I watched that actually. I got a feeling I binge watched that last year at some point. And I really loved it. So Spider-Man No Way Home, December 17th. So that's Black Widow, Shang-Chi, The Eternals, and Spider-Man. 4 Marvel movies this year, man.
It's about time.
So good. About time we get some MCU on the big screen. Hawkeye, some point this year is coming out. Don't know when.
Yep.
However, Miss Marvel also dropping this year. So we're going to get Kamala Khan. And the excitement here, I'm going to jump a little bit down the thingy here. They've announced that the Captain Marvel sequel is going to be called The Marvels with an S. So we know that we're going to be getting Kamala Khan as well as she's going to be Photon from the One Division TV show. Yeah, she's Monica Rambeau, but obviously she's Photon in the comics, and she's going to be in there too. I've no idea what's going on, why they've decided to ram that movie with a bunch of Marvels, but who cares? Let's just enjoy it.
Well, but they also really pushed up the release date for Miss Marvel because they got to get that show out before they bring Kamala Khan into the film.
Yeah, and so Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is out in 2022, and that's March 25th. A little bit of news here, actually. Apparently, Doctor Strange was going to show up in the final episode of WandaVision, but they made a decision to remove him from the TV show because they wanted the TV show to be about Wanda rather than kind of, they felt like sticking Doctor Strange in it may have ruined Wanda's TV. Not ruined it, but sort of upstaged her a little bit. So I think that was a nice approach. I wouldn't have been too displeased if he'd have been in maybe like a 30-second mid-season sort of end credits thing, like when she's at that house.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have made sense, especially given her large role in Doctor Strange 2. But I'm glad they didn't. Like, there's no reason for them to take away from Wanda shine. Like, let her have her series, and especially if that series is not going to get a second season, which it doesn't look like it will. No. Like, let it be about her and her actions, and leave it at that.
So continuing into 2022, Love and Thunder, which is the Thor sequel, May 6th. Not much more to say than that, other than we know that we're going to be getting a Lady Thor. So see what happens there. Black Panther, however, I thought this is great. It's going to be called Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I mean, great, honestly.
Wakanda Forever!
That's going to be out July 8th. So we'll enjoy a nice summer there. So coming back to the Marvels, which you mentioned earlier, November 11th. I'd already heard about this, but Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special exclusive to Disney Plus will be out late 2022. I'd probably anticipate that probably dropping out the first couple of days in December. So a couple of TV shows which we know have been talked about, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk in 2022 at some point. And then they've even gone as far as to give us some 2023 dates. So Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and Guardians of the Galaxy. So Quantumania will be out in March 17th, 2023, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which will be the last Guardians of the Galaxy 3, well, as far as they've said at the moment, but May 5th, 2023. So I'm pleased for that. Then they ended that 3-minute video with a teaser, which it ends on like a number 4, which I was not overly. I was like, could they just tell us something? Like,
no, they're not. They're not. They're keeping that one real close to the chest.
They're not even dropping the X yet. Like, there's no X-Men forever at this point. Like, nope. So. There's some other stuff kicking around, like Fantastic Four, Blade, Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars, I Am Groot. None of those have been given dates yet. I wanted to just let you guys know though, I put a little poll on Twitter, and you can only put 4 things on the poll. So I put the Marvels, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Wakanda Forever to see which ones people were most excited for. So with 52% of the vote, Wakanda Forever, and that was at 17 votes. So that one out of those 4 movies is the most excited. Ant-Man and the Wasp got no votes. And do you know what though? I'm looking. I'd like to see that film. Like, I think Paul Rudd is amazing. So, but
I mean, Paul Rudd is great, but like as far as like in the MCU, the films like Guardians and Ant-Man, those are bottom tier films, and on my personal like Marvel list.
So 52% of the vote went to Wakanda Forever, 42% went to Guardians of the Galaxy, 6% went to the Marvels, and 0% to Ant-Man and the Wasp. So,
our apologies to Paul Rudd.
Paul, don't worry, man. I'm gonna get you. I've got you. Yeah, I'm gonna be there, man.
I still love Clueless. It's one of my favorite films of all time.
Oh yeah. I love Clueless too. Do you know what's mad is like Paul Rudd? People probably dismissed him for ages. Like had a menial role in Friends, menial role in Clueless. Now look where he is.
Yeah.
Like he's a big star now, man. Like Alicia Silverstone's at home, like doing her dishes, watching him on the TV.
Hey, be nice.
I know, I love Alicia Silverstone.
I actually saw her once when I lived in LA. One of our friends was a stage manager at the Geffen Theater at UCLA, and Alicia Silverstone was doing a play with Della Reese from Touched by an Angel. And we were backstage, and I saw Alicia Silverstone between scenes, and she waved at me, and she was really nice. And like I left, and I was like, "Oh my God, Cher waved at me! I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself." And my friends were like, "Oh my God, calm down. Clueless was like 20 years ago. Relax."
About 15 years ago, I was had a holiday, and I stayed in Vegas and Los Angeles for like 10 days and stuff. And I was staying in a hotel up the road. You know the stairs in Clueless, where she walks down the stairs in LA with the shopping. Yes. I was in a hotel like about 2 or 3 blocks away from there, and we were like, for the 5 or 6 days we were in LA, we were going to all these different places, you know, Universal, Disney, doing all the tourist stuff. It was literally on my last day when, you know, you're just sort of killing time waiting to get to the airport. So I was just like said, I'm just going for a walk. So I just strolled down the block, and like, so I'm walking, and suddenly I walked past it, and I was like, hold on a minute.
Did Celine Dion magically start playing when you walked by?
No. Well, like, no, none of that crazy stuff. Like Marky Mark played, like, and but anyway, like I saw the stairs, I was like, oh, that's the Clueless stairs. So I was like,
I always joke, like everything I learned about LA, I learned from Clueless before I moved out there. And then when I moved to LA, I was like, God damn, it's weird how right Clueless was about so much of this random LA shit. So I used to drive by places all the time, like that liquor store where she gets robbed wearing her Alaya dress. I used to live near, my apartment was near that liquor store. So I used to drive by that clown all the time. And every time I drove by that clown, I was like, Clueless.
Do you know what? Actually, you just reminded me of something. On my first or second night in LA, I was walking from the hotel to some shop, and obviously I didn't have a car. Like, I mean, I don't even remember if I could drive. Yeah, I can't remember if I could drive or not. But it was a family holiday, so we didn't hire a car. I just paid for taxis or whatever, or got coaches to like Disney and stuff like that. And anyway, this group of girls like drive past me, and they're at the lights, and they pull down the window or something, and they just look at me and they went, "Why are you walking?" They actually said to me, "Why are you walking?" Like, and I just like seemed really like, well, why not? Like, I was
we don't do that here, Mark. We don't do that here.
Like over here, like we do walk. Like we've had this conversation before. Like I walk places over here, and you're like, what? Like, and but I've got like a shop 5 minutes from my house, like a little, you know, I can get milk and bread and stuff, and I'll like walk there to get it. And you're like, what? You've got a shop you can walk to? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm sure, like, you know, there
are plenty of walkable cities in the U.S. I just do not live in one of those.
Yeah, and obviously LA is not a walkable city. So yeah, that's probably, they were like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Yeah, what a weirdo.
Yeah, like, why is he walking? But yeah, they just wound in the window and opened it. Went, why are you walking? I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, because I am. Like, I was like, I don't know. Like, I was just, my car's in England. I don't know. What do you want me to say? I was just like, I've come here on holiday. I can't bother to hire a car. Like, you know, so anyway.
That's hilarious.
DC, man. Like, do you know what? I just want to move on. I just want to reflect on this a little bit. Marvel, the people that they don't pander to the fans.
Yeah.
But they do. I feel they respect the fans, and I feel like Kevin Feige is doing a good job of keeping things fairly cohesive. Right? Let's talk about DC. We've had this joke off air. I like DC.
I love DC. My favorite heroes are DC heroes.
But I've got to feel at this point that they have to have recognized that they don't know what they're doing. Like, yeah. I think that must be something that I feel like they've gone into the boardroom, all of them, and said, look, let's put our hands up. We don't know what we're doing. We fucked up. We wanted to create a shared universe. We didn't want to do what Marvel did and take a couple of 5 or 6 films to get to the Avengers/JLA. We just want to get there in 2 films. Actually, 1 film. It was they had made Man of Steel, and they didn't plan a shared universe. They then saw what Marvel was doing and going, well, look, we already did Man of Steel. So how can we get from Man of Steel to Justice League? Right, okay, Batman versus Superman, but we'll shove Wonder Woman in there, and then at the end we'll show a couple of montage of a couple of other people. Next movie will be Justice League. Brilliant, done. And then everyone will love it. They didn't. No. And then they realized how badly that tanked. However, then you had Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Shazam. They were like, okay, these solo movies work. And then they were like, Ben Affleck wants too much of a say, but we're DC and Warner Brothers, and we don't like our creators to have a say. We just want them to do as they're told. So Ben Affleck, you can go and do your own thing somewhere else. We're just going to go and get a young actor in who's going to just do what he's told. And I've got no problem with
our Pat's
name. Yeah, I've got no problem with him. I've got no problem with anything I've watched in. I actually got a feeling he's probably going to be a good Batman. It's not his time, man. Like, Ben Affleck should have had his own movie, and I am going somewhere with all of this shit. But like, I'm disappointed, DC. Just, and then what they've done is, this Batman's going to be on Earth 2, so it's going to be part of our multiverse. Nobody cares. Like, we want Ben Affleck to have his own film. Like, I wanted a Batman film with Ben Affleck. I wanted Deathstroke, like you promised us, and also with that Zack Snyder thing and how we had Ray Fisher and all that. I wanted all that good stuff. I want to, I'm not going to be hashtagging every tag with Return of the Snyderverse or whatever. I'm not going to do that, but I would love to see actually somebody be put in charge. Zack Snyder was pretty much running things. Why can you not just get someone like that, him, in charge and just control the shared universe? So this leads me to this news of something I'm not particularly excited about: Superman reboot. J.J. Abrams, or however you say his name, with
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yeah. I was going to struggle there. They're going to do a black version, a black person of Kal-El, who is going to become Superman. And apparently it's going to be set in the 20th century. There's not much more than that, but apparently basically it is going to be like a Clark Kent Kal-El type thing, but the person's going to be black, and apparently they're going to, just try and have all, other than JJ, pretty much a black creative team. There's enough black superheroes at DC that they could have got somebody else. Why do you have to go and get Kal-El and just make him back? Like, I've got no problem.
Nobody else is god tier like Superman, though.
Well, but that is it. That purely is it. Superman, they know Superman will get people in the seats, right? So, okay, but then that comes down to, well, you're just banking on Superman rather than a good film again. Like, so it was a bit like the Justice League thing. They hoped by putting all these brand names in, they were going to have a smash film. And do you know what, though? I have to say, I don't think there's anything that I've watched of JJ's that I've never enjoyed. And I probably will like this movie, but could we not have had a Cyborg movie? That's what everybody wants.
Yeah, I really want them to reconcile with Ray Fisher, because I love his Cyborg. I love his Cyborg so very much, and I want more of that story. However, as far as Black Superman is concerned, it has pissed the fanboys off so badly that I am 100% behind a Black Superman film. Like, fuck it, bring on Black Superman.
I'll watch it, but also the thing is, there have been Black Supermans, like, there have been like in Final Crisis, and there's been, like, DC have had Black Supermans, just not Kal-El. So why could they not have brought in somebody that is a Black Superman and still keep Kal-El? And I would love to see a Man of Steel too. I would love to see them also reconcile with oh shit, man, how have I forgotten his name? The actor,
Henry Cavill.
Yeah. I'd love to see them reconcile Henry Cavill and keep Henry. I mean, there's not been a better I know Superman and Lois is a great TV show. I'm not going to lie. Like,
but I'm still not going to put Tyler Hoechlin above Henry Cavill.
Yeah. Henry Cavill is probably one of the best Superman that we've ever had. Like,
yeah.
No,
I love Christopher Reeve, but I gotta give it to Henry.
To Chris.
He's so damn charming, and that's what is so great about his version of Superman, is that he's so charming, but he's so disarming with the charm. It's not over the top, and he doesn't play like the, oh no, I'm super helpless when he's in Clark Kent mode. He just strikes the perfect balance of Superman.
I'm not like pissed off there's a Black Superman, and not at all. Honestly, like, it's not my problem. Like, my problem is that, like, DC just seem to be changing what they're doing constantly. Like, people want a Man of Steel too. The people like Henry Cavill, like, like you say, he's a charming actor and everything like that. And there's room for a Black Superman in a separate movie, but we've also, I personally, I don't know about you, but would you be happy with Henry Cavill and another Superman movie, two different Supermans? Like, if we're getting our Pats on Earth 2, can we not have on Earth 2 maybe this Black Superman, and maybe they could embrace the multiverse and keep.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of everything being connected. It doesn't have to be as intricate as the MCU, but you've already established that this Robert Pattinson version of Batman is not in the same universe as the Ben Affleck version of Batman. And if that's the case, are you are you putting more effort into building this Earth 2 superhero team than you are with the regular Earth superhero team? Because if so, then yeah, why couldn't that Black Superman be in that world? You got a Black Superman and a young Batman, and who
make
knows
make it a young black guy. Yeah, like make
Yeah.
it a young black guy and have it be that this is the younger version, the more immature, naive superheroes growing up together, and maybe they could build to a young Justice League, and but then at that point would they just start abandoning the DCU? I don't know, but I don't even if the fans don't know what's going on, how they I just honestly feel like they don't know what's going on.
They're the classic issue of one hand not talking to the other. Like none of these teams have any idea what the other teams are doing.
This feels to me like a knee-jerk reaction though as well to we know we've upset people with this whole Ray Fisher thing, so let's make Superman black. Like that's how it feels to me. But why not address the issue and go and sort stuff out with Ray Fisher?
Because that would mean admitting that you did something wrong.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with admitting you've done wrong.
Yeah, but powerful people don't like to admit those things.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of times where I've sat down and thought, I've done so and so, I need to, everybody, we're all human. Mm-hmm. No one's perfect here. I'm gonna get all deep in law school now, but we're all human. We all mess up, right? But I guess like you say though, powerful people don't see that they mess up, right. And that's how these powerful people stay powerful people, because people don't like to challenge, and Ray Fisher's been doing a good job of challenging. So yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I love Ray Fisher. I love DC. I don't know, man. Give the keys to Zack Snyder and just, we don't need JJ to come over and do his Star Wars thing.
Yeah, give it the Star Trek treatment.
Yeah, Star Trek and Star Wars, isn't it? So I like JJ though. I've got no problem with him. I everything he's done I've enjoyed. I'm not going to criticize anything that he's done. I'm a fan of pretty much most things he's done. I don't know. Anyway, I need to stop talking about this. Probably going to get more annoyed about it.
So
it's Friday, but it's not Invincible Friday.
Not anymore. But Invincible was so good. The series was so good. The finale wrapped up last week, and we had to make room for at least a little bit of an Invincible review. And boy, oh boy, those first 3 episodes, which we did cover a few episodes back, those first 3 episodes really, really, really set the tone for that series, and it only got better from there. Within the first 3 episodes, we see Omni-Man kill off the Guardians of the Universe, or the Guardians, or whatever they're called, Guardians of Earth. Yeah. And after he killed them all, we were just like, what is happening? And then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And by worse, I mean better. It just gets so much better. By the end, I'm not going to go episode by episode, but by the end, Omni-Man reveals his grand plan. It turns out he was just a big fat liar. And all that he told Mark about his planet of Veltri,
not me.
Yeah, other Mark, Mark Grayson. We're a perfect society. We eradicated this, that, and the other, and we decided to go out into the universe. Now, when he first explained how Veltron works, or Veltri, whatever they're called, it immediately made me think of Zarkon from Voltron, because the Zarkon and that empire, the Grawl, their purpose was, we do things better than everyone else in the galaxy. Therefore, everybody else in the galaxy should be part of our empire. Or if you want to get video gamey about it, you could think of it in terms of the Protheans from Mass Effect. When you meet Javik in the 3rd Mass Effect game, and he's like, no, we didn't give people a chance. We told them, listen, all of you are going to become part of the Prothean Empire, and if you don't want to be part of the Prothean Empire, then we'll just eradicate you, plain and simple. So join or die, or those are your 2 choices. And it turns out that the Veltri are like that. Instead of them having this perfect society, no, what they did was they had a giant death match, weeded out all of the weak people on their planet, and those who survived spread out into the universe to conquer other worlds. So when Omni-Man kind of reveals this grand plan to Mark, Mark is like, fuck you, dude. Like I'm not down with this. Like this is my planet. And Omni-Man just does not understand Mark's attachment to Earth and to the people of Earth. And I think that was probably, now I did not expect this series to make me cry. And the last couple of episodes of Invincible definitely made me cry because Mark was just so hurt. He was so hurt. He was so confused. He had no idea that his dad was this psycho. Um, but having to listen to his dad kind of explain away the past 17 years of his life, while his dad is like beating the shit out of him, by the way. He even got some teeth knocked out. And believe me, man, I have had plenty of dental surgery that when his teeth got knocked out, I was like, God damn, that's expensive to put that shit back in your mouth. But it was really heart-wrenching because the whole time Omni-Man is fighting Mark, he's like, they're not your people. They're weak. Humanity is useless. And if you just help me conquer this planet, then they're gonna, they'll eventually see the light and become better for it because they're no good the way that they are. And Mark is like, well, what about mom? And what about my friends? And this, that, and the other. And Omni-Man gets so pissed that he just literally pummels his son to a bloody pulp. Mark can't open either eye. Half of his teeth are missing. He just looks like a bloody mess. And Omni-Man is kind of like, you know what? What's another 17 years? I'll make another one of you. And we'll do this again in 17 years. And I was like, God, that's such a heartbreaking thing to like hear your father say to you. Like
when he says something like in 500 years time or something, like what will you have? And and I literally couldn't believe it. He had the crap beaten out of him right at the very end. He said, I'll have you, Dad. And I was like,
oh my God, that broke me.
But yeah, so 8 episodes of Invincible. Last episode dropped last Friday. It's been, do you know what? I have to say, like we have this constant conversation over streamers dropping all episodes versus Netflix and Amazon have Amazon didn't used to, but they have moved to dropping weekly now. What they'll do is drop 2 or 3 in the beginning and then they'll move to weekly. So it hasn't been 8 weeks, but it was 3 episodes and then weekly since. Disney, literally everything they do is weekly, and Netflix is still dropping 10, 12, 13 episodes all in one go. And I'm not a big fan of them. I don't mind finding a show and going back and watching it because I'm watching it on my own time. But like when a show drops in one go, like on a Friday, and then bloody by Saturday afternoon, everyone's talking about the ending, and I haven't even watched episode 1 at this point because I've actually got things to do. And it just feels to me that this is where I don't like it, where they drop it all in one go and it feels like a race to the finish rather than like, because I hate getting spoiled. So I'm like, okay, I don't want you lot all talking about it all over the internet. And I get that all these blogs and pop culture and news sites want to be the first ones out with all the headlines because they want the clicks and the advertising. But I don't want to go click on them right now, and I don't want people sharing them everywhere. So, so I quite enjoyed the whole weekly thing, like watching it weekly. And I did the last 2 or 3 weeks of Invincible. I did, the last 2 weeks I did fall behind because I just had stuff to do. But with Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and Invincible, I was enjoying catching it weekly. And what I was enjoying as well was like the buzz of talking about it and seeing the buzz on social media. And it was like this whole thing about, it's Invincible Friday again. And it was like, we've had this conversation about the water cooler thing, it creating sort of almost like event television like Lost used to be. So having this come out every Friday has been really cool. So having that whole thing last week, me and you both said it, we hadn't had a chance see last week's episode, so we knew we were having to stay away from it till we could watch it. So with Invincible, I thought it was an amazing show. What I loved about every episode was 45 minutes an episode was a great idea for an animated thing, because a lot of the time weekly animated shows tend to go to half an hour episodes, which I know Robert Kirkman said it was a deliberate thing on their point, which I felt actually gave you a decent story every week,
right?
And seeing just sort of the setup and everything. So there's one particular thing from the last episode where everybody basically finds out that he's invincible. All his friends now know and his girlfriend Amber. And there was we talked about this as well earlier. Before recording, that Amber, the character of Amber, got a lot of hate online. Now, what I liked about this was Robert Kirkman. His show Invincible is a lot more realistic in terms of how people would deal with relationships with a superhero and a secret identity. It's not like if you look at every TV show and movie since the dawn of time, it was the will they, won't they, in terms of getting together, but also dropping the identity and the partner, normally a girl, having to put up with this boyfriend. But actually, if you were to look at it as an outsider, this boyfriend's basically being a dick, like keeps making excuses, keeps letting them down. If I did that, if I kept letting my, like my wife or girlfriends in the past just never showing up for meals, and just like I'll meet you outside the theatre at 8 o'clock or whatever, and then they just don't hear from me until like the following day, and then they find me, and then, or sometimes they might find me beaten up or something like that. I can imagine if you found beaten up, they'd probably let it go. But her reaction when she finds out that he's invincible is, I don't give a shit. Like, you've been messing me around for months now, and it's just gone one thing too far. And then he was like, yeah, but I'm invincible, and she's like, oh, I love that. It's cute that you think that's like
that matters.
That matters, but it doesn't. You've been messing me around for months now, and I work. And even she says, I worked out that you were invincible a couple of weeks ago. So, but what I mean is, what I'm bringing this up is, I love the realism that they put in this show. So, although
I love that she was wise beyond her years, because she did a lot of things, and she was always ready to bring him back down a peg. And it kind of goes to what you said. Like, you get so sick of people being like, yeah, but I'm so and so, and everybody going, oh my God, it's so and so. And it's just like, Amber was not about the bullshit. She was like, I get it. You're a superhero. But she also said, like, I figured it out long enough ago that I gave you ample time to tell me what the deal was, and you never did. Like, you had plenty of opportunities to come clean. And you didn't. You chose not to. And, on the one hand, I understand, like, oh, well, you keep your identity secret because you're protecting the ones that you love, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, you got to know how to read a room, man. And he should have been able to tell that Amber was smart enough to see through the bullshit. So, I mean, I hope that they stay together. I try not to read too far ahead. Sometimes I am not successful, but I really do love Amber and Mark, and I love them. I like it because she's normal. So their relationship reminds me of Omni-Man and Mark's mom's relationship. Hopefully just he doesn't turn out like his father.
Well, that's clearly not on the cards, but yeah. Anyway, overall, I loved it. I love the animation. I love the story. I love everything. That's literally, I love this show. It's great. Let's bring back Invincible Fridays. Hopefully we don't have to wait too long. But
it was really good. It was a nice. It was different, I guess, for a superhero series, because it didn't go as far as The Boys went in terms of violence and gore and just pure, ridiculous's.
That's because it's animated.
Yeah, but it also didn't take a backseat to serious issues. Like, so I love the balance that Invincible found.
Would you love a video game of this?
Would I play a video game?
Yeah, play a video game.
No. I don't really play superhero games.
There's rumors of a movie, which I'm not that bothered about right now. I'm into the cartoon now. Like, I don't need a movie, but I can see why they'd want a movie.
I've started reading the comics on Comixology Unlimited. So there's quite a few that are included in the unlimited monthly, like, borrow reads. So that's where I am now. I'm on volume 3. So it's the pacing is different in the series than it is in the comic, but that's because they specifically sped up the Omni-Man reveal to the first episode, because they wanted to make sure people stuck around.
That was. I saw loads of memes online about the first episode where they had, like, I don't know if you saw it, like, they had, like, brackets of the first episode, so the first 40 minutes or something, a bracket saying, this episode's okay. Can't really see why it's, an adult cartoon show, blah, blah, blah. Then the bracket of the last 10 minutes is, holy cow, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like, what on earth is going on? Like, this is not for kids. Like, and I remember watching that first episode, and I sort of was thinking the same thing. Like, what is going on? Like, it's not that bad. Like, maybe it's a bit 12. Like, and then all of a sudden, wow, Omni-Man goes nuts. And then you just find out towards the end his arrogance. So the episode ends with him flying off into space, and it had some nice little moments as well, like Mark sort of narrating a little bit over his life, and he sits on the moon with that sort of intergalactic peacekeeper guy who comes and checks on planets, and
Seth Rogen.
He rocks up and says, "Oh no, I've just come back to warn you," and he's like, yet. Cheers.
Yeah. No shit. Yeah, we know. We know. But
So
it kills me though that everybody, I don't know why they would assume this, but they're like, Omni-Man just left Earth. No, bitch. Omni-Man is going to get the freaking armada to bring it back to Earth to fight you guys. Like, what do you mean? I can't believe that everybody, even Cecil was like, well, he just left. And everybody's like, oh, he just left? He flew into outer space and he just left. And I'm like, you guys are all idiots. Like, he didn't leave.
He's coming back.
He is going to get reinforcements to fuck y'all up. That's what he's doing.
They need to get ready for that.
Yeah.
They need to do something. Hide the Earth, because
we need a cloak or something around the Earth.
Yeah, they need to do something, because I tell you what, when he comes back, I'm sure he won't be coming back with some friends. Well, he'll be coming back with his friends, not ours. So
anyway, I'm excited though. I loved Invincible. I can't wait for a second season, since they do have 2 and 3 coming up. So I'm excited to see where we go.
Invincible, we although this is kind of like a mini review, although we've kind of talked about it enough that it's probably almost a review now. Like, I was going to say 10. We rate everything out of 5. 5 out of 5 all round. Like,
it's fantastic.
We're all there. We're there.
Yeah, watch it. So, jumping into our first actual review this week.
It's not about her magic. It's about trust.
What?
I mean, that's why it worked. That's why we can do it too. By doing the one thing Sisu wanted us to do, what my mom wanted us to do, to finally trust each other and fix this. But we have to come together.
Raya and the Last Dragon. It was released on Disney Plus and in theaters way back in March. I say way back because it always feels, everything in Corona feels longer, right? So it is a screenplay by Qui Win and Adele Lim. The story is by Paul Briggs, Don Hall, Adele Lim, Carlos Lopez Estrada, Cale Murray, Qui Win, John Ripa, and Dean Wellens. Directed by Don Hall and Carlos Lopez Estrada. It stars Kelly Marie Tran, Awkwafina, Isaac Wong, Gemma Chan, Daniel Day Kim, Benedict Wong, Sandra Oh, Talia Tran, Lucille Soong, and Alan Tudyk. This movie was released during Corona. Disney did also release it on Disney Plus. It had a $100 million budget. It gained $103 million in theaters, so technically it turned a profit. Disney never released the premiere access, it is not available on regular Disney Plus yet. So it was one of those premium features where you have to pay the extra $30 or $29.99 to get access to it, like you did with Mulan. But like I said, Disney did not release those features, so we don't know how much money it made on Disney Plus Premier Access. Now, if you wait a few more weeks, it will be available on regular Disney Plus by June 4th. So this film is set in the fictional world of Kamandra. Now, it's an amalgamation of several Southeast Asian countries, most notably Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam. The premise is that 500 years before we start the film, there was this massive, massive war between the humans and the dragons. The humans and dragons were fighting on the same side, and there was this mythical creature called the Droon, which was basically like this shadowy thing that turned everyone to stone. Needless to say, unfortunately, the war was lost. But it kind of won, but lost, but kind of not, at great sacrifice. All of the dragons ended up perishing, except there is a rumor that one dragon survived. So after the war, the country was divided into 5 specific kingdoms. So all of them are named for parts of the dragon, which I thought was kind of weird that they didn't have actual names for the kingdoms. So they're called Fang, Heart, Talon, Spine, and Tail. So the 5 kingdoms. And when we first meet Raya, she's a young kid. Her father is the sort of not king, but like head of Heart. And Heart is the region that protects the Dragonstone, which is supposed to be what all of the dragon's powers have been stored in. And it basically, the premise is he wants to unify the country again. It's been 500 years of discourse, 500 years of everybody fighting everybody else, when really the threat is the Droon and not each other. So he's really optimistic. He's really hopeful. But the problem is he's the only person, it seems, in the whole kingdom that feels that unification is the way to go. So we got to this part, and it definitely reminded me of Yasuki with the daimyo Nobunaga, who said that he wanted to unify Japan and that everybody should be kind of under the same umbrella as opposed to all divided and fighting each other. So great message, like, hey, we're better together than we are apart. Doesn't quite work out so well. So he invites all of the other kingdoms over. They have a feast, and the feast revolves around cooking, but they've used ingredients from all 5 of the regions for the meal that they have cooked for everyone else. So at this point, Raya, I don't know, she's like 6, maybe 7. I don't know.
I think she's 11 or 12.
Oh, really? See, I'm terrible with kids. Like, I have no idea. I don't know how kids work.
She looks about 10 or 11 to me.
Makes sense because there is a time skip, and in the time skip, she's obviously a teenager. So, okay.
It's 6 years later. It's 6 years later, isn't it? So, yeah.
All right. Okay, we'll go with 10. So she's like 10. And the other kingdoms show up for the feast, and there's another child her age, Namira. And she is from Fang. And so her and Raya spend the whole feast kind of hanging out with each other. And Raya thinks that she's found a new friend. So the problem with that is, as children are wont to do, she shows Namira the secret Dragonstone. And of course, Namira is a well-trained, not assassin. She's still too young to be an assassin, but she's a well-trained Fang fighter. And then all hell breaks loose. So at the banquet, now all 5 of the kingdoms are fighting against each other, trying to get the stone. And in the process, they break it. When the stone breaks, the Droon are released from whatever prison the magic inside the stone held them in. And now we got some consequences because Raya's father ends up being turned to stone as he pushes her into the water because the Droon are terrified of water and they can't get in the water. Pushes her into the river as he is turned to stone by this smoky, creepy creature thing. And then we skip to 6 years later. So in the 6 years since, Raya has been searching with her humble servant / pet Tuk Tuk, which is basically like a cross between a giant armadillo and a, I don't know, roly-poly bug. Like, I don't really know what you call it. Anyway, Tuk Tuk is super cute. He's ridiculously cute. And if I could have one of my own, I would love to have one. He was adorable. So basically, it's one of those kind of adventure stories. She sets out, she hits up all the kingdoms. She's trying to collect the gemstones, the pieces of the gem, so that she could put them all back together. But first, she's looking for the dragon because there was a rumor that a dragon was still alive. And of course, as Disney goes, she finds this hideout where the dragon supposedly had its last stand and awakens the dragon. Now, the dragon that she awakens is Sisu. Sisu is played by Awkwafina. And let me tell you, as soon as Sisu came into the picture and opened her mouth, I was like, oh, hell, this movie just got so much better because now here's the comedic relief. So
did you not get the genie vibes of Aladdin? Like I got that. Of course. Like it was so just genie-esque, like the whole the coloring, the comedy, I don't know, just everything about it. I was like, oh, this is Aladdin and the genie. Like, hands down. Like,
10,000 years can give you such a crick in the neck. Oh man. It's very familiar.
Familiar. But when she came in, I did enjoy like the humor, so I thought that was good.
That was really good casting. Awkwafina was really great as Sisu. So now things have sort of changed. So now that she has awoken the dragon, they talk to each other and they realize, we got to collect all these pieces. And Sisu's very upfront. Sisu is like, I didn't do anything. Basically, all of my siblings put their magic into the stone, and then I was the one who put the stone in place. That's it. That's all I did. And Raya is kind of like, what? What do you mean that's all you did? And Cece's like, yeah, I didn't have any magic. My magic is that I am a really good swimmer. And so it's kind of like you have this almost like comedic heartbreak moment where it's kind of like, I have been searching for you for 6 years, and now that I have found you, you mean to tell me that you ain't got no magic to fix this? And so basically the premise from then on is just kind of very, to me, like Lord of the Rings-esque. Like, let's go on this giant quest. We have to collect the rest of these gem pieces. So we're going to pick up other people along the way. We're going to change their minds. We're going to change their hearts. And we're going to get our happily ever after, even if it kills us. And that's pretty much what it boils down to. Like, a lot of the other things that happen when they go to the other kingdoms to pick up the pieces of stone, they're all very sort of situational and procedural. Nothing is unpredictable, but it's not predictable in a bad way where you're bored. At least I wasn't bored watching it. It was just kind of like, well, you go to this kingdom and I know you're going to leave this kingdom with the piece and you're going to move on to the next kingdom. So it's definitely not like rocket science.
I felt the beginning part was, I prefer the beginning, and the rest of the film was okay to me. Like, but it was very Disney. It was very predictable. I kind of like, I'm like on this whole thing of where I feel like they could have been more Disney and put some music in and some like whole song, like being a bit like Moana, and you know, had some music in there, which would have made this. I think I actually would have enjoyed it more if it had some catchy tracks in there. You know, like your Frozens and stuff like that, where you got. I can't remember any of them now. I sound catchy, but anyway, like Moana and Frozen, all that had some really sort of catchy songs in there, which kids love and hook them in. My kids were not interested in this film. They came in and out of the film and they weren't bothered, which says a lot to me. The fact that they weren't bothered about watching it. Yeah. So I thought it was okay. I thought the humor was okay. Like, say, Awkwafina as the dragon. What's the dragon called? Sisu something. So Sisu, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought the dragon was actually one of the best parts about the whole movie. Yeah. I enjoyed the beginning part with Raya, and I preferred the more sort of serious tone in the beginning. The bit where she's jumping on the boat and going to all the different, like the little different towns across the river, and they kept stopping and getting more and more sort of comedy relief characters added to the boat. Yeah. Wasn't enjoying that. Like, I kept thinking, you've had what I know it's a family film, and I know it's animated, and you know, it's Disney, so I know that it is always going to be family friendly. But I straight away, the more and more of these little characters, these little wooden creatures that they kept picking up, I kept thinking, this is Disney and the merchandise machine all over again. It's like, actually, you know, I was like, this is the pork situation right here. Like, we're gonna make porgs because they sell. Like, they're going to be cute. We're going to sell them at all the theme parks and the Disney shops, and we're going to make loads of money. And I was like, oh, here we go. This is much, you know. So that's when you talk about the 103 million that they made, or 101. What did you say they made? 103. Yeah, and but that's 103 on the film. How much did they make on merchandise? Like, you know, probably not as much as they would have done, because not everybody's going places, but you know, they would have. That's where they make their money as well. So I was disappointed with all these little characters, but I understand why Disney do it, because they you know, the cash machine. That
well, Disney it works on me, because if given the opportunity, I would 100% buy myself a tuk-tuk. I totally would.
I wonder if there is tuk-tuks.
He was like, so cute. He was cute when he was a small bug or thingy, and then when he got bigger, he was even cuter. He was so cute.
I actually did prefer him when he was little at the beginning.
Yeah, he was really cute.
I just googled it. You can get tuk-tuks, so
well.
You can get a mixture of cuddly toy ones you can play with. So you can get a medium soft one, you get a small one.
I totally want a soft one.
You can get, you get loads of them. You can get a, you can get a 17-inch one.
Wait a minute, maybe I want that one. Okay, we'll save that for another time. But one of the things that I did love most about this film is there is absolutely zero romance element to it. And as much as I do love Disney, I have always hated that most of their classic animation films have always been about the guy gets the girl, or the girl winds up with the guy, and then they wind up happy. So there's none of that whatsoever in this film, and I loved it. Basically, what the two main characters, Raya and Namira, Raya, by the way, played by Kelly Marie Tran, which some of you idiots drove off the internet because of your Star Wars obsession. Anyway, Kelly Marie Tran's fantastic.
Before you move on from that, I actually heard her talk about obviously she's British, like myself, and I heard a nice little story from her before that, flipping a social media thing, where she was sitting in a pub with her friends, and she overheard some people in the pub talking about Star Wars and her, and like, but all in a positive way, and how they love her and they love the new character, whatever. And she turns around and goes like, "Hiya," like, and they were like, "Oh my god." Like, and then, but she said she pulled up a chair with them all and joined in, like having a beer with them all. And I mean, that to me just seems like she's just really down to earth. And then you hear the story about how you get these morons that are just racist and just drove her off.
Yeah, basically.
And so you could tell it was her watching this film. I recognized her voice straight. I knew she was in it, but straight away, like, recognized the voice, and she was brilliant voice acting.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Kelly Marie Tran is Raya, and then Gemma Chan is Namira, and I loved their dynamic. They were both, even when they were kids, because even when Namira betrayed Raya, they fought. I mean, they fought each other hand-to-hand combat. They were toe-to-toe. They were pretty even. So throughout the film, every time that Raya and Namira come into contact with each other, it's one of the, or Namari, I'm sorry, I keep calling her Namira, Namari. Every time Namari and Raya come into contact with each other, they fight. And I love it because even though they're, for most of the film, they're on opposing sides, or at least it seems like they're on opposing sides, but they want the same thing. They want to get rid of the Droon, and they want the kingdom to go back to the way it was before. Of course, the methods that they use to get there are very, very different. But I love that they're so badass. I love that they both fight. I love that they have these convictions that are so much bigger than themselves. It was so great to see because, well, in Raya's case, her father was turned to stone, so she does not have a parental figure kind of pushing her forward. But in Namari's case, she has her mother, who is the queen or head or whatever of Fang, and she has learned so much from her mother. Like, she's learned how to be tactical. She gets approval to use the military in different kind of ways, and I love the sort of tactical minded brains that they both have. And I love that neither one of them is helpless. They get themselves into these situations that seem impossible to get out of. And of course they find a way out, but they also take risks, which is something that I love. I love strong women characters. And I think that these two ladies do it so well. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, it's not fair that the villain gets a redemption arc. And in this case, I don't really consider Namari a villain. I think she is a foil, definitely, to Raya, but I would not call Namari a bad guy. I think she is misguided, but again, she has her heart, as cheesy as that is, in the right place. So the end where everybody kind of joins together and it's all 5 of the tribes or the kingdoms united as one. It's a message that I love. And I think it's a message that resonates with a lot of people, regardless of what part of the world you're from, is, again, and I said it earlier, but we're better together. And if we're all looking for the same thing, we're all fighting the same enemy. So why should we also fight each other if we have something bigger to worry about? So I loved it. And the colors in this film were beautiful. It was these whimsical pastels and bright colors, and the characters' faces were so expressive. The skin tones were so varied. My one beef with the CGI is, for whatever reason, as much water as there was in the film, they didn't get the water dynamic right, because there were so many times where Sisu would splash water on people and there would be no droplets or anything. Anyway, that's a very technical thing, I understand, but it really did kind of bug me while I was watching.
So yeah, I mean, I the movie for me was okay. Like, I think you loved it more than I did. But I think a great sense for me, if a film is what is a good family film, is if my children can sit there and make their way through it, and they didn't. Like, one of my child left 5 minutes in, wasn't interested. The other one left 20 minutes in and came back for the last 10-15 minutes, and I think it was very noticeable. To be honest with you, the lack of music, it kind of felt like they should have put in some music, but maybe they just didn't have anything.
My question about that, though, is, since Disney, it seems like they're trying to sort of make their way into these diversity settings, like sort of like the way that they did Mulan, where I can see how you tried to do something different than what you would normally do. However, this film sort of suffered because of it. And I did not feel that I lost anything with Raya not having any music. However, I think it's because Raya is not a remake. Raya is an original. So the whole time I was watching Mulan, I kept waiting, like, oh, this is the part where this song happens, and this is the part where this song happens. And then, of course, that never happened. So the disappointment was there because I was expecting music and didn't get it. Whereas when I watched Raya, I was not expecting that. So I don't think it never even occurred to me. Honestly, like when you mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, Disney and music. Yeah.
I felt like at any moment there was going to be a song, and it wasn't. Yeah. So I'm not saying that they all have to have music. I just think that this, where they leaned so on the edge of it, they may as well have done it. Mm-hmm. So I think if they'd have stayed away from the cutesy little merchandise selling characters, fine, don't do the music. But when they started leaning into that whole family-friendly talking animals and all that nonsense, I was like, well, you may as well just start putting sing-alongs in here and just make it a whole thing. So I don't know. Well, anyway,
I think Disney they tried to do this. It's like an animation counterpart to their live action Mulan, right? They tried to do with Raya what they did with Mulan, but at the same time, it's like your live action stuff is no, don't do that. Don't do that. And there was a tiny bit of controversy with this film because a lot of people were upset with the casting, because while the film itself kind of pulls a lot from Southeast Asian history, lore, mythology, the voice cast, there were quite a few East Asians as opposed to Southeast Asians. So for instance, like Daniel Dae-Kim is Korean, Awkwafina is a Korean American, Gemma Chan, she's a British Chinese. So there was a lot of kind of, oh, you're trying to be diversified, but you're not doing it well enough. And on the one hand, I do think that those criticisms are valid. But at the same time, I kind of feel like, thank you for not putting white people in these roles. I really appreciate that you didn't do that. But I don't think you can discount it either. I don't think you can say, well, Disney was right and these people are wrong, because I think representation in front of and behind the camera matter. So anyway, I loved it. I would definitely watch this again. I enjoyed it. It was sweet. It was cute. I like the characters. I love the color scheme, and the colors were fantastic. So yeah.
So what did you rate it, Jasmine?
I gave this a 4 out of 5.
And I didn't mind either way, so I agreed with the rating for this week. So I didn't challenge. I was like, yeah.
No challenges this week. Yes,
yeah, no challenge.
Flawless victory.
Yeah, like I can just challenge you now if you like. No,
anyway. It's too late. We've already written it down.
Yeah. Stillwater, Volume 1. Image Comics Skybound imprint, written by Chip Zdarsky, who is the creator, and Raymond K. Perez, also creator and artist and cover artist. Mike Spencer is the colorist. Russ Wooten is the letterer. John Moisan is the editor, and there's other people that nobody probably is that bold about, but you know. And this started originally sort of September-ish last year, first issue. Issue 6 dropped about a month ago. Issue 7's on its way. Collected edition was out the other day. So Stillwater, the kind of premise in some ways is not original. I mean, obviously the story combined with other elements is its own original story, but the idea of a mysterious town off the map, off the beaten path, we've seen things like that in Supernatural time and time again. We've got the Lost Island, which is an island rather than a town, but we've seen things like this on many an original sci-fi channel TV series. What's it called? Not Warehouse 13. There was a TV series that they had around the same time Warehouse 13 came out. And this whole sort of idea has been done time and time again. I'm not saying by the way, nothing I'm saying here is a criticism. I'm just saying it's not an original idea on its own. Now, the idea also is that everybody that lives in this town doesn't die. That again is not original. Now, we've had things like we've had there's that French TV series, and there's been other things I've forgotten. Resurrection as well. I think it was a two season show. Yeah. So there's been a lot of those things. Anyway, so what we've got here is a combination of these things, and we've got this town of Stillwater. Now, what I like here is the first issue. You get to Stillwater in the final few pages, so you have a whole issue of build up between these two sort of best friends, Tony and Daniel. And I actually thought the first couple of pages with Daniel was quite a nice intro, that he's actually a bit of a dick.
Also, you can tell he's got a short temper.
Yeah. So he gets sacked from his job in IT or marketing or whatever it is.
For pushing another, a colleague.
Yeah. He assaulted a co-worker, and he was like, okay. And they're like, no, you're not getting it. This is a zero tolerance thing, and they sack him. And then the next couple of pages is followed with the fact that he goes out and gets drunk. He's thrown up in the street. Let's be honest, we've all done that. We've all thrown up in the street at some point. We've all had too much to drink. I was actually enjoying this scene. I was a bit like, this is a kind of thing we've all done. This is like the adult Scott Pilgrim. We've all done it. So, and then it's followed up again by him waking up on the sofa. And what I liked was his mate nicked the bed and put him on the sofa.
Exactly. That was so great.
But this is the kind of thing.
Why didn't I think to ever do that in college?
This is the kind of thing, though, that male friends do to each other. You stitch each other up. You stitch each other up, in a nice way, but you stitch each other up. So, first 4, 5, 6, or was it 6 pages or something like that? It's all like the intros before it even says chapter 1. So so Daniel gets a knock at the door from some old guy, and I have been wondering if that guy is someone we'll see again or not. I don't know. So he gets this letter about some solicitor says he's got to go and claim some inheritance or something in this town of Stillwater. And then the rest of the next sort of issue is him on their sort of trip across America or whatever in the car, and they're chatting to each other. And I think all that's kind of cool. They get stopped.
I thought it was interesting that he drives a Mini Cooper, though. He does not seem like a Mini Cooper dude.
Well, especially in America, because for me, obviously in Britain, whenever I see anything in America, you lot all have big cars. So to see somebody in an actual small car, and especially
such a macho, let me punch you at the bar kind of dude to be driving a Mini Cooper, it was just really off-putting. And I got a real kick out of that, though.
So then they get stopped by this sort of sheriff, very sort of love country, like middle America. We don't get people in these here parts, stopping them and all that kind of stuff. And also when they stop at the gas station as well, no one's heard of this town. Basically there's a lot of build up. There's a lot of build up before we even get to Stillwater. Show up at Stillwater, and they put up in Stillwater, and it's people that they ask for the person who the letter came from. He's not around here anymore, etc. And then sort of the twist happens. So 2 kids are fighting on a rooftop, and they fall down on the street and essentially die. But they don't die. They carry the boy into the hospital, to the sort of the little local doctor's surgery, and literally within 5 minutes, that boy's up and out again,
and bolting out the door.
Yeah, he's bolting out the door. So then it's sort of, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
The sheriff rocks up. They take Tony and Daniel. They drive them out past the borders of Stillwater, and then they sort of have them by a fire, because I assume they're going to plan on. Well, actually, we do find that out later. They burn a body, but anyway, so they shoot Tony dead in the head. Yep. I couldn't believe it. I honestly thought they've done this whole setup of 2 best friends, and they just killed one of them off. It was quite. It was very much
shocking.
Like your whole. It was like your whole Omni-Man thing, not on the same scale, but it was, it was definitely like, oh my God, I can't believe they just killed off one of the main characters. So I was like, wow, they've just set up this whole best friend dynamic. We kind of got to know these 2 best friends throughout this whole issue. And in fact, actually, you've not got to know anybody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody else has been so minute and one panel here and there, but you've got these these two best friends, and the best friend went with Daniel to this town to find out what's going on because he's supportive, and that's how friends are and stuff. And then he gets killed, and I'm like, wow. And then out of nowhere, this woman runs up saying, basically, you're my boy, and the issue ends. And I tell you what, Stillwater was really good for the cliffhangers. So for all 6 issues, like, I'm not going to be able to go through the same level of detail as in the next 5 issues, but like each issue did, honestly, every time it ended, I was like, oh god. And all the way through to like issue 6, the end. So we spent issue 2 kind of deals with the repercussions, and what you get your flashback, like 1990, and it's a little flashback to Daniel as a boy, and a wolf sort of goes near him, and that doesn't make any sense on its own, but you will get that reference later. And then they deal with essentially Daniel becoming part of this town, and they set up the structure of the whole town, and the judge basically has become empowered. And
he is on a
town.
Huge ego trip. He is judge, jury, and executioner.
So this book will flash back, and it's as the book goes on, it does flash back to when this first happened in 1986, when they all started to essentially become immortal. And initially, they kept a lot of the original laws of the rest of the country, but then as the last 40 years have progressed, their laws have changed, and they've got rid of lawyers, and they've got rid of due process, and it's just become down to the judge being the man who calls the shots. Mm-hmm. But he's obviously over the last 40 years maneuvered these things. He obviously can do it overnight, and as he says in issue 6, when he throws like a wobbly, like I'm gonna come to why, but he throws a wobbly, and because they're challenging him, he doesn't like to be challenged. Because
I'm sorry, can you go into detail as to what a wobbly is?
Oh, sorry. Like a tantrum.
Okay.
British slang there. Like a wobbly.
I'm telling you. Welcome to Geeks Unleashed, where we talk about pop culture and learn about British slang.
It's weird because I know like most of yours from the TV or whatever. When I hear like words you say, generally I know them, but this is what we need. We need to get you to watch more British TV.
Yeah, so, I need to brush up on my British vocabulary because apparently it's not very good.
I thought a wobbly would be straightforward, like Well,
I thought, in this context, like I thought you meant drunk, even though they can't get drunk in this town. But like that's what I think of when I hear wobbly, not a temper tantrum.
Tipsy, maybe like wobbly. I don't think. Well, I suppose you could describe somebody as wobbly, like they look a bit wobbly, but
yeah.
I don't think I would do that. Maybe like staggering, maybe like around. But anyway, we digress. But he does throw a wobbly in issue 6 because they challenge his power. And we were talking about this before we recorded that the town of Stillwater has become like every other thing that you read in terms of like an Animal Farm, like the people in charge. Although they start with apparently good intentions, by the time that they by the time we come into that part of the story, these people with their good intentions, where they initially started with, these laws and these rules are for your benefit, they're to protect you. Flash forward 40 years later, who are they there to protect? They're there to protect the judge, because the judge enjoys being the king. The judge has created his kingdom, and it has become, and as they talk about it, Stillwater has become a prison, and no one's allowed to leave. If you get shot within the confines of Stillwater, you will live again. So that's how they stop a lot of people from leaving. They shoot them. And then they've created new rules, new laws, because they recognize that locking someone up for 6 months who's immortal doesn't have the same effect.
Right.
So they'll bury them under the ground for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but we do know that they do kill
literally
people.
Bury them alive. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have reference as well in this issue in these 6 issues, that people do disappear, which says to me is, if the judge don't like what you're saying, we're going to take you outside of town.
Right.
So they create this whole system, like even the mail, every piece of letter correspondence has to be checked by somebody, and that's in and out, has to be checked before it goes to the recipient. Now, what I quite liked was in the last couple of issues, was actually we get to see that people are allowed to leave the town if the judge lets them leave the town. So he will let people go off and do missions. And the sheriff actually does go off, and what we found out is he goes off.
The sheriff is a woman. That guy,
No,
Ted, is like a deputy or whatever.
Sorry, I kept getting confused. Sorry, the deputy, Ted. Yeah. He keep getting given missions to go off and assassinate family members of the people of Stillwater.
Yeah, because they're literally worried. They're like, I have sent you 50 letters that you have not responded. I just want to check to make sure that you're still alive.
Yeah, I know. So they have this whole setup that Ted will leave the town and go and murder your grandma, your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, whatever it is. And they allude to the fact that Ted's done this on multiple times. So we only get to see him do it once, and he shows up in someone's house. However, because again, position of power, he breaks the rules for his own benefit and goes and sees some of his war buddies who haven't seen him for 10 or 15 years or whatever it was. Because this is a bit as a flashback, so this fell in line with the flashback. So he shows up at one of their houses, and they're like, "Oh wow, I can't believe like you showed up. You've missed all their other gatherings." And then one of them catches a sparkle in his eye, and from some of the things that he'd said, he felt like he alluded to the fact that he was a contract killer. No, he's not a contract killer, but he has gone off and murdered people.
Yeah, so he is a dog on a leash, is what he is.
Yeah. So when he goes off and does this murder of this relative of someone in Stillwater, one of his army buddies shows up and catches him. And they flash forward to, I think it's like 17 years later. So this guy now is an older man, because he's probably although he's probably like in his 60s or late 50s or something, he's still like well built and can kick ass. You can imagine he's probably like your Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's probably just rocked up.
Yeah.
So he rocks up at the town of Stillwater, and what we find out is that Ted has actually been building up his own militia on the outskirts. So to jump back a bit, so Daniel and his mum bond. They sort of get to know each other. She explains how she snuck him out of the town, why she did it, because even the babies were not getting older. They were mentally getting older. So she had a baby who was 18 months old, but with the mind of a 5-year-old. So
exactly. That was weird.
So like the 18-month is like, oh, I'm not tired,
I'm going to go read to myself. But you're like, you're a foot and a half tall. How are you even talking about reading to yourself?
So there's a lot of flashbacks in these 6 issues, and I didn't mind the flashbacks. I know that was a conversation we had the other day on another podcast, but actually I thought the flashbacks were quite good. I felt that they worked well in this story.
Yeah.
So they do go and explain that she had to sneak him out and what she went through to get him back, and then when she sort of brings him back, and so she's buried for 2 weeks under the earth, so he's kind of left on his own for 2 weeks, so that was her penalty. When she gets out, they both bond. She explains what happens, and then she introduced him to
the welcome party.
Group of people there, the welcome party, and they basically said they're going to challenge the judge and ask if we can have a vote. And even I knew, reading it, I was like, there's no way this judge is going to go, yeah, sure, yeah.
No, not somebody on an ego trip that's lasted 40 freaking years.
Yeah, he's not going to go, okay, I'll welcome a vote. Of course he's not. It's not going to happen. So obviously they put a vote to him. He throws a wobbly, as I mentioned. They all end up having to leave the courthouse because he tells his 2 little coppers on the side to start shooting everybody.
Yeah.
Obviously they know they're not going to die, but it's him just
still
throwing
hurts.
a little tantrum. Oh yeah. Oh, can you imagine just suddenly getting shot through the head and then waking up an hour later or whatever it is? So they get him to kill everybody. And their pal, I forgot his name, the doctor guy, and he I'm assuming blows himself up. I'm assuming there's something that he's done, because the courthouse blows up. It's all in chaos. And what I loved is that when they finally show you the judge, he's got no legs and arms and looks like he's been melted pretty much.
He looks like what's her face from The Boys.
Oh yeah, right at the very end of The Boys, season 2, yeah. And but we know, because what they've said is that they've said that they've seen people even coming back from just ahead, and so we know that the judge will be back up and running. So as the 6th issue ends, it ends with Ted and his military guys rocking up to clearly try and take over the town. I'm a little bit thinking, how's that going to happen? There's 5 of you, I personally would have preferred this military thing to have come a little bit later on. I would rather have spent a little bit more time maybe getting to know the current environment with the judge. And I'm assuming what's going to happen is that we're going to lead to a confrontation with the military guys, and the judge and the town's going to be in the middle of it, and maybe like a power struggle is going to happen now. What I would like to have seen is maybe us spend a few more issues, maybe 3 or 4 more issues with the judge, with maybe Daniel trying to challenge that judge for leadership controls. Like, and then when that, maybe even try to the point where they're going to overthrow the judge, and then see the military guys rock up, and then them like say, like, again, this isn't an original idea. You take down villain A for villain B to show up,
right?
Like, so at this point, the judge hasn't really been taken down. It's like he's just in a bad state, and then villain B's have just shown up. So, yeah. But I do get why Chip Zdarsky has kind of, in my opinion, had to rush a couple of little bits that I personally would have rather have maybe enjoyed a little bit more, because this is a creator-owned title. You can't, you've got to like not pull your punches, because you need to keep people coming back month after month, because it's creator-owned at the end of the day. If it doesn't sell, Chip don't make the money, and you've got to create buzz, and people do love Chip Zdarsky writes anyway. So I know that he's got a big fan base out there. I enjoyed this though. Like, I thought it was great. What I would say in terms of the writing, I felt it was really smooth and flowed really well. Mm-hmm. So I went in from each issue really enjoying what was going on. I just felt it flowed really well. Like I've said this before, like sometimes I'm reading something and I feel like I'm relaxed when I'm reading it. It didn't feel like a chore to me to read this book, and I really was into it. Like, and the art style itself, like, I felt really suited the book as well. Like, it wasn't,
definitely.
It wasn't something I necessarily would like in a superhero book, but it was something that I felt suited something like Criminals, that kind of thing. Like, I actually don't know what other stuff Raymond's done, to be honest. I probably should have that, but I think he would suit things like crime noir, this kind of mystery type book.
Yeah, because it gives off a very pulpy vibe when you first start reading it, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely suits this story. So I really did enjoy the art. I don't think it would work well on like a Batman book or something like that. I think it worked well.
It kind of reminded me of the art on Invincible, actually, where it's like the people aren't drawn to perfection. There's gaps in the line art, purposeful gaps in the line art. Like, nothing is quite on point or perfect, yet it still works for the medium. Like, it works for this particular story.
Yeah, no. So, what are your thoughts on anything to do with Stillwater, like the town, the characters? Like, did you enjoy reading it?
I hurt myself, honestly. I think when I first saw the title for this book, my first thought was, all right, sweet, we got another story about some small town in the South, because I immediately thought of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Honestly, I thought this book was going to be something like Southern Bastards. Now, I know the first cover had like a skeleton on the cover, but like, I didn't expect the supernatural element. And so I guess it's my fault. Like I said, I messed up my own expectations before I started reading the book. And so as I was reading, I was like, this is not what I thought it would be. And then I couldn't enjoy it the way that, you go into something blind. And I understand that that's 100% my fault. I did not enjoy reading this book. I felt like it got very wordy, which is not a bad thing at all. I'm not saying that. It's just, I was not expecting it to be as wordy as it was. It kind of reminded me of reading DC death metal. And it was just like, by the end of the second book, I was like, I can already feel like it's going to be a chore to get through the next 4.
Oh, no way. This is nothing like death metal. Death metal was awful.
No. I just meant in terms of wordiness. Like, there were so many like word bubbles in death metal. There was one scene in, I think, the third book where Ted, who's that weird deputy guy, was on the roof spying on some people, and that kid who fell off the roof in the first issue is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Jesus, Galen, you scared the crap out of me." And the kid, who knows how old the kid is at this point? I mean, he was a kid in 1986 and it's 2021 at this point. So he's probably like 50-year-old dude in a kid's body. But he ends up giving Ted some shit and he ribs him a little bit. And Ted gets pissed off and like literally pushes the kid off the roof. And I got such a kick out of that scene because it was just kind of like, I'm tired of your bullshit. Like, here, fall off the roof and you fix yourself. So there were definitely parts of the book that I enjoyed, but by the time I got to the 4th issue, I was like, honestly, I'm not invested in these characters like I thought I would be. That's not true. I was invested in the Doctor, and I wanted to know more about the Welcome Party. So maybe the Welcome Party is going to be more prominent in the next few issues, but that's kind of the story that I wanted more of, because the whole point of the Welcome Party was they were like, look, we understand that we can't get out of this town. They're never going to let us leave this town. So fuck it, let's bring the outside world to us. Let's bring the outside world in here, and maybe then we can get out of here. So that thread and that story arc is what I am interested in, but we didn't get any further than them deciding to go to the courthouse to try to petition the judge. So I don't know. I just it wasn't what I thought it would be, and it wasn't really for me. So I didn't hate it, but I didn't enjoy it.
Do you think you'd read more, like, to understand what's going on? Or you, so you're done with this?
I will rely on someone else to read it and then fill me in.
Oh, me, probably. So I read it in single issues. I felt like it. So I originally I was reading it monthly as it was coming out, and then for this review, I read the first few issues and then I stopped because I wanted to get more in. So sitting down and reading 6 issues in one session was better. I preferred that. Like, and I've said that a lot though, like with it, even indie stuff and even superhero stuff. Sometimes actually just sitting down and reading a couple of issues in one go is nicer.
I'm definitely a trades girl for sure.
Yeah, I think if I was going to carry on with Stillwater, I would prefer the trade. So I may stop. I'm thinking I'm going to stop with issue 6 and move to trades with this. So, but I personally loved this. I really enjoyed it. Again, though, nothing here is original. I'm curious to see like why everybody in the town obviously is immortal. Now, that's a big mystery that they're clearly going to hold on to. That's not going to be something they're going to get. And throughout the 6 issues, it is barely addressed. I mean, like they clear 40 years in and they don't know why it's happened. So, but yeah, anyway, I enjoyed it. So we gave the art 4 out of 5 and the story 4 out of 5. So I personally would really recommend this. If you love history type stuff, again, nothing original here, but I felt personally the writing flowed well. Yes, there is a lot of writing in there, but I felt it flowed well. I didn't feel like it was. I felt like what you were reading was straightforward. It wasn't confusing. It wasn't confusing.
There's no fluff to it but there is a lot of dialogue and exposition in the book.
Yeah. So we'll draw a line under Stillwater, but yeah, recommend it in my opinion. So, and talking of recommendations, nice segue. And actually talk about British stuff. So this is something I had said, should we try and maybe look at? So Line of Duty is every year I see people on social media in England and so the UK banging on about Line of Duty, and every year I'm like, oh, it's been going on so long. However, our seasons over here compared to your seasons over there, so each season over here is like 5 to 6 episodes long. So there's got to be no more than 38 to 40 episodes so far, which is not a big job, to be honest with you. So I've done the first 2 seasons this week of Line of Duty from the BBC, and the first season, I've got to admit, I didn't enjoy it. I watched it and I was like, completely underwhelmed. I was like, oh. But I'd already made a decision that I was going to carry on. Like, I knew that I was going to carry on. Like, so the first season, I was like, not bothered. And I actually did tweet this a little bit, and a couple of people hit me up like, no, stick with it. And I was like, okay. I was going to stick with it, but I just was a bit underwhelmed by season 1. Anyway, season 2 was really good. So like Keeley Hawes is like, so what it is so Line of Duty, just to explain what it is it follows a team of 3 coppers who work on it. Well, 3/4 coppers who work in the anti-corruption squad, what they call AC-12. So it's obviously 12th anti-corruption unit in the country, and they investigate essentially bent coppers. And so each season will introduce a new whole load of cast in and around a crime that's happened, and they'll investigate if somebody's bent or not. The first season, in all honesty, I felt like it was fairly weak, but second season was really good. So like Keeley Hawes' character in season 2 is she Ben? Is she not? Is she Ben? Is she not? Like, it was like literally like up and down. Like, she's clearly lying about something. Was she lying about? Like, you know, there was a good thing there. Why? And also there's this ongoing. They've already started to tip within the end of season 1. They dropped a tiny little note like of an ongoing mystery, and then that's kind of picked up a little bit again in season 2. But they're not really like, it's not gonna, you know, you probably could go into season 2 and not really even have watched season 1. But this whole little mystery thing, I don't know, overall, like Line of Duty, I'm into it. So it's been 6 seasons now. The 7th one is on the way. But like I say, it's less than 40 episodes, and you know, I absolutely enjoyed watching 2 seasons in 1 week. It was kind of difficult, like, to make myself stop like tonight because I had other things to do. So
like record a podcast.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. So.
My recommendation this week is a brand new book, comic from Image Comics. It is called The Good Asian. It is from writer Pornsak Picheshol and artist Alexander Tefengi. It is this fantastic Chinatown noir. It is set in 1936 in San Francisco, California. It revolves around one of the first Chinese American detectives in the US. Honestly, it's like, it reminded me a lot of LA Confidential. It is, I can't, it's hard to describe. It was really good. It was an interesting story. It's about this cop, Edison Hark. He is Chinese. He's working the Chinatown beat. He sort of hates himself because he is a cop working the Chinatown beat. But at the same time, he kind of seems like he's starting to come into his own, where on the one hand, he is a cop and he kind of sticks with the cops on most things. But on the other hand, sometimes he does remember that he is also Chinese. So he kind of doesn't want the cops to beat the suspects and do all of these terrible things to his people. So it's a really interesting balance. It's a really interesting story. The art is fantastic. One of the variant covers is from Sana Takeda, who was the artist for Monstrous, which we covered in one of our Late to the Party Book Club episodes. I fell in love with this book immediately. It's gritty, it's dark, it's violent, it's honest, it's, you know, sometimes it's vulgar. There are a few slurs that they use in the book, which would have pissed me off if it was a white writer, but the writer is Thai American, so I'll let it slide. But I just really enjoyed this book. I was surprised at how much I liked it, but it's a pulpy noir detective book, and honestly, it's really good. And I'm very much looking forward to the second issue because it's rare to see things from sort of an Asian American cop perspective. So that's super interesting. Plus, I don't know, Chinatown and like noir kind of stuff. I love detective things. So it ticks a lot of my boxes. I really enjoyed the art. I really, really, really enjoyed the story. And I immediately was interested in just about every character. And I can't wait to find out more of what happens in this 1936 era San Francisco town.
Next week, we will be reviewing the whole season of Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix. And we are also going to be reading Jupiter's Legacy Volume 1. So you'll probably hear us talk about both, so we can have some good context between the show and the original graphic novel.
And as a reminder, we did start a second podcast series where we tackle some of the most essential graphic novels of all time. Our 6th Late to the Party Book Club episode was Akira Volume 1 by Katsuhiro Otomo, which is the highly acclaimed manga from the 80s. Our next episode is going to be coming up at the end of this month, at the end of May, and it is They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, Justin Eisinger, and Steve Scott.
You can also follow us on social media. We're Geeks Unleashed everywhere, but especially Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Google, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn. We are everywhere. So be sure to give us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Thank you very much for listening. Sorry it's another long one, but I hope you enjoyed it and have a good week.
Bye.